Good evening. So, I want to describe an aspect of a day. You may relate to this. So, the sensation is 2 to 3 timelines happening simultaneously while being one person. So, this is just sort of off the top of my dome. You know that the usual world is occurring out there. But between you perceiving that it's occurring, you've lost all interest in it. You cannot connect. And then this is not a personal choice. This is a mindset, let's say, a visitation even, perhaps, a state of consciousness where you're yourself, but the contexts have flipped around and inverted and disappeared altogether. So again, the outside world, what you're routinely connected to, disconnected, 100%. Then the feeling of that isolation and solitude, but not solitude in a romantic way or a depressed way, just simple you. And then in behind that, there's a part of you that is neither of those two things, and you endure it, kind of like waiting at a way station when you're empty. But since you're driving an 18-wheeler, you've got to wait and be weighed anyway. So these events are periodic, and I think they happen where and when things are being restructured inside a person, that there's certain things that happen to people, known and unbeknown to them, once certain quotas have been met. And these quotas have nothing to do with laundry lists that they've intentionally written out and checked off. It's almost like by default or autopilot, where a plane takes a certain amount of flights. I'm sure the statisticians know about these things. And after a certain amount of flights, the aircraft is retired. And I think these things happen inside human beings as well, to parts of the mind, the emotions, the intellect, and then to things like moral character and you as an individual, just simply how you present yourself and your vibe. building this YouTube channel has been, and still is, because I'm still going to go forwards, has been an interesting experiment. And this is a message to other YouTubers that are out there sharing parts of their lives that they would not have thought they would be sharing in this medium until they started experimenting and something caught on for them, like something's working for them, irregardless of the clicks and the comments and the stats and all that. That's good, but at the same time, if it's not for you first, then you'll be last at the end of the experiment. That the only way to truly, in my opinion, profit, irregardless of material profit, is to make sure that it's for you first. So persevere and keep going, even if you meet trolls under the bridge. You're going to trigger, depending on your content, but also not depending on your content, because trolls they have layers and levels as well. There's pretty much a troll for everything. And that's just how creative mental illness is. And it's not to say or belittle mental illness. It can be ruthless, and maybe part of coming off a little sarcastic around it is the depth and the legacy of mental illness, particularly in the Anglo-Saxon arena. And Britain, with their recon missions to help Israel genocide Gaza, is one example. Another example is what America has always been and is simply more transparent than ever today with Trump as the president. If you want to find Trump in history, just look at Churchill. Trump is Churchill. Churchill is Trump. Read his quotes about the pro-genocide. His pro-genocide quotes. A truly diabolical entity. But that's the truth of living on Earth. It's starting to occur to me, and not that this is a new idea in my imagination, but that heaven and hell are not outside the Earth's atmosphere. They're firmly fixed on the surface. And it's not so much a battle between the two, because supposedly they were both created by the same dude, which begs the question, why create two opposing, seemingly at war opposites when you don't have to? So maybe there's a hint there that we are that, and our dark and light is that. There's an old saying about feeding the white wolf or the dark wolf, and I often wonder what happens if you don't feed either. I guess one would need to be in a special circumstance to do that experiment. But it's possible that there is a third choice. And this battle, so to speak, between good and evil, to me, it's a projection. That people imagine that bad is bad and good is good, and don't see that good can become bad and bad can become good, that they're interchangeable in many regards. And often punishing bad only demoralizes and fixes it deeper into having a deeper taproot and hold upon the human being that is demonstrating it in the moment. And something that occurred to me today is that we don't naturally give each other the benefit of the doubt. We have a tendency to judge immediately and keep that judgment almost like a personal possession as a fact. And yet no one is static. And people can change. And I think that just the fact that that they can change is proof that there's a missing segment of life, a huge missing segment that needs to be explored and practiced in the future if we're ever going to get out of this quagmire of children of light and children of dark, which is a complete psychotic projection. This idea that innocence can be dark. It's a dangerous, dehumanizing idea, and we don't understand projection and transference. That's a huge thing, and it's not just something that was invented by a psychologist. It's a phenomenon that's been going on for tens of thousands of years. And it just took one human being to notice it. And I'm sure that whoever claims to be the first person that coined the phrase is not the first person. That the idea of hypocritical judgments has been around for a long time, where every condemnation is a self-confession. That idea has been around a very, very long time. And to dial that in and notice it, train yourself to notice when people are projecting and when they're making certain strong assumptions about you or interpreting things that you've said in ways that resemble themselves more than you know your intentions to be, is a very helpful tool to recognize that and not necessarily call it out at first, but hey, whatever floats your boat. It's a case by case situation where you have to experiment. So eventually you will have to call it out and see what happens. And then depending on the results, then you refine your ways of delivering the message and not having to maybe dig yourself out of a deep grave of delivering the message in such a way that makes it sound like you're worse than the projection itself by delivering it. I think it has to be done in a way that doesn't open you up to being judged further as worthy of imprisoning the messenger, let's say. But either way, you're going to suffer backlash because this routine has been around a long time, and it's deeply embroiled in society. And the idea of heaven and hell as an external reward and punishment is also deeply instilled in the behaviors of human beings. And this superstition that you're the victim, and that there's a watchful victimizer, a bad Santa Claus, that your fate is mixed up with his judgments and possible forgivenesses or redemptions. But maybe not. But maybe not. Who knows? By the time you get, if you do endure to an old age, by the time you're 65, 70, 75, I would guess that you don't even know what the stats are by then. So then you sort of retire yourself to, well, it is what it is. And I feel like that's a very dishonorable place to be, with beliefs and faiths backing you up. It hasn't really rewarded you as the master of yourself, a very sound footing as to where you're at exactly internally with your actions, who you are, your relationship with the world's relationship with you. It resembles more a kind of flippant relationship with self-accountability and owning your own darkness. When we defer our darkness, our shadows, to a being in the clouds, it does us a disfavor, I feel. It's like, well, I'm not going to worry about it. I'll let the Lord figure it out. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. Could be, could not be. And this sort of wishy-washy morality around one's own actions and the results of those actions is a level of irresponsibility that I feel needs to be addressed without religious distractions. So, because the ego will take advantage of any loophole, the shadow will take advantage and will find an excuse, like Netanyahu is leading a kind of what the Zionists are propagandizing is a religious genocide, basically. And he's justifying that by the very genocides that were justified in the Bible, as if because it's in the Bible, it's holy, so it's a holy justification for genocide, which is pretty much a ludicrous idea that everything in the Bible is holy. There are unholy things in the Bible, and because it was written by human beings, and there are wrongs in the Bible. There are immoral, unethical tragedies and huge mistakes and unpaid debts recorded in the Bible. It is a portrait of mankind, and peppered here and there with inspirational quotes and such, as all such books are. And just like humanity is, there's bad poetry and there's good poetry. And there's propaganda in the Bible as well. Lots of propaganda. This tribe, that tribe, this house, that house, pitting one another against each other. And thus the drama continues into today, as if it's some sort of privileged heirloom to participate with and in and wear. So things are getting pretty sketchy, I have to say. I think having too much YouTube on the mind is something one has to be careful of. That this need for stimulation, and figure out a way to mitigate that, and because it's sort of easy fast food, and it doesn't really sink in and take root. So that was a side note, by the way. I just wanted to get on tonight and share some things, especially about this 3 places at once phenomenon, and state how sacred life is, not in a new age way. There's folks that will call life sacred in a condescending way, in kind of an aloof way, and I don't mean it like that. Oftentimes when people overemphasize what's obvious, they're hiding something, and or they're exaggerating something in order to seem like, while being like its opposite underneath the skin. That's another form of symbolic projection. So, a lot coming up this week. Going to be getting the other cam up and going. Be doing some videos around the sculptures, talking some more about feelings and morals and ethics. I'm gonna make a poetry reading mask. That's coming. I've done the mold for it, and I'm gonna do some experiments around some poetry readings. So lots of ideas manifesting and on their way to being born. Did some shorts today, YouTube shorts. It's been helpful, and it still is, to keep the routine, share, watch thoughts go by, gauge them a little bit, retrieve before they exit, reorient them. I think pauses would be a great exercise for a lot of YouTubers. Particularly, well, it wouldn't work with the reactionaries, because it's just a completely different ideology that as soon as they pause, their whole channel would collapse, because that's not what their audience is looking for. Their audience doesn't want to be prompted to consider or reason, and so be it. If you go to a party, you don't expect crocheting and silent bingo, right? Not to say that reasoning is boring, but it has its place. And in this world, that's more, I guess, where I feel like contributing is around reasoning, pausing, thoughtfulness, empathy, courage, dignity, telling the truth, holding people accountable, and making some big changes in the world. I support that. I think that policy around journalism, government, filtering mechanisms for public officials, people in power positions, wealth distribution, that's somewhat on the outskirts, because I feel like wealth distribution it's a good thing and it needs to happen, but it's not the core. It's more of an effect than a cause. What causes hoarding and greed? Well, the individual and their mental state, and the mental state that supports their lifestyle, and the collective mental state that supports the people they hang out with, and the whole system that they identify with and are linked up with, that ensures their survival in the human jungle. But it's also important to remember that when you live up in the trees above the jungle, if the jungle doesn't want you to come down from the tree, it can decide to catch itself on fire or put at the base of the tree a few jaguars. So just be careful. When you see the writing on the wall, you might not want to go up into your treehouse. Think about things on a horizontal plane more than a vertical. Because once you go up, those that are still on the ground may not let you back down. So it's not uncommon that people get caught up in what's coming over the horizon and miss what's right behind them. A lot of National Geographic photographers know this all too well. Iran is holding strong. I find it interesting that the world is backing Iran. It's almost as if you've got a wise father scolding his soon to drop out son in his first year of community college or university, trying to keep him on the right path. But all his son wants to do is goof off and remain a child. And it's a struggle. It's a huge struggle to grow up. And it's not to say that that's the rule for everyone. Maybe different people are on different timelines of evolving, however they're evolving. And I gauge the success of a person by what they do, and what they say, and what they are to themselves. As far as gauging, like with a world gauge or a societal gauge, privately, I toss the gauge in the trash because I don't know. I don't know what's going on with each individual. There could be something there that no one can see, but the silent witness inside that person. And for all I know, it's a very elaborate, sophisticated act in order to trigger events and things to happen that will only resolve and manifest 1,000 years from now. I don't know. So there's always that benefit of the doubt. There's layers to the benefit of the doubt. There's momentary benefit of the doubt. There's lifespan benefit of the doubt. And then there's future projected benefit of the doubt, which is really incomprehensible because our lifespans don't allow us to work on that level of expectation or speculation. So life is very hard. And if you judge hardness or softness by materialism, you might assume it's easier for some. but you never know what's coming their way. And this easier or harder is, don't let that be a trap. Don't let that be a judgment upon yourself and be like a self-defeatist situation. Sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. Sometimes, like today, it's nothing at all. We are experiencers. Wake up in a bad mood, go to bed in a good mood, and vice versa. And sometimes have no clue why. That's how vulnerable we are. So it's relative. And also it's pragmatically factual that existence in Gaza is harder than my existence currently and a good portion of the rest of the world. One thing I want to comment that I almost forgot about, it's getting late, and this is more of a kind of a stream of consciousness share tonight, per my usual. So I will often, things kind of fluff off to the side because I don't really have a list or a teleprompter or anything, is tragedies that drop down inside of me that will not go away. I carry them around. And Gaza is such a thing. It's weighed on me since October 8th, day after October 7th. And there are scenes from Gaza, things I've read and seen and verified with coverage that journalists were doing before they were assassinated by Israel, footage, things like this. Things that etch themselves in the very marrow of my soul, that haunt me. And I think it's Owen Jones. I believe that's his name. I think he can relate, and Norman Finkelstein as well. He seems to be haunted. I just find it peculiar that certain things just roll right off the back of a lot of people, and okay, so be it. But the people who really matter in positions of power, again, this goes back to that we need a new system to filter these people, get the right people in and keep the wrong people out doing other things that is either rehabilitative or more suited to their nature, their real nature, not the one they pretend and that corporations prefer to have in positions of power to do their bidding because they know they're not going to get any resistance. Get people in that have conscience, that have a kind of default empathy, that when injustice occurs, it affects them, and the memory of that injustice changes them forever. Those are the people who will make a difference. Those are the people who will be able to spend that power wisely because they're coming from a place of relativity. They know how it affects others that are closer to the incident, like the mothers and fathers and children, because they feel it. the indifferent sociopaths, they are not the ones that ought to be in power, because they don't have the capacity to be beside themselves and take in and empathize and be in the shoes, so to speak, of a victim. They are too busy being the victim of their own victimhood. They are both the victimizer and the victim, sociopaths. And narcissists to some degree, but there's degrees of narcissism that I won't go into tonight, but not all narcissism situations are the same. But sociopathy is sort of a catch-all phrase as well. But it's a bit less nuanced than narcissism. And I would say it's more elemental. Simple. You either can feel for others or not. And there are accounts and scenes from Gaza that, for whatever reason, can really wear on a person and affect them. And it's like an evolutionary device unto itself. You carry the effect around, and it influences your daily life, whether you like it or not. It's a mood, it's a vibe, and people will often mistake it for your opinion of them, or latch onto it as proof of their concept of you being judgmental, or whatever you may have entertained by your abstract actions, and they've interpreted it as something precise, and even name it. All along, you're a complete stranger to them. They have no clue what is affecting you internally and what your story is. But they are very sure of themselves, right? And so that's, again, possession by fictitious internal story writer. People can possess themselves, which sounds kind of fantastic, but it's true. That's what the imagination is for. That's where you have people talking to themselves and answering as if there are two different people going on. What's happening there, and there's degrees to that too. It can be very serious, and it can also be playful, where you do it and you know you're doing it. And then there's times when a person's identity can split and be a Siamese twin, and you can literally be talking to yourself in a viable, rational way. It's a legitimate form of self-exploration and exercise of discovery. So it has a bad rap. Probably started with some puritanical judgment of someone mumbling to themselves, but it does have applications. Well, I think that's it for tonight, and stay tuned. Thank you for your support. please drop a comment or a like, subscribe. I'm still a fledgling in a big nest, so we'll see how it goes. Just keep doing it, and watch it grow. Thank you, and good night.